Hey guys, it's me, Gluten-Free Brownie, and today I am telling a story. So, I was watching Annus today, and uh, Mark and Ethan were talking about making yourself cry for acting and whatnot, and they invited their viewers to make a tutorial or something like that. Unfortunately, I will not be making a tutorial on how to make yourself cry because unfortunately, I am no expert at making myself cry at all. So instead, I thought I'd share a story about my experiences with learning how to make myself cry, I guess. Not necessarily. But yeah, here it goes. Story time. Um, they also brought up in Mark and Ethan's video the young actor who auditioned for Elliot for the movie E.T. And I remember I had to watch that for my Acting 2 class. Now, my Acting 2 class, I had just come home from living in California for about a year and a half. And one morning, I was headed out the door, and on the news was there was a story about a shooting in, I think in Las Vegas. And they showed a clip someone had taken of it, and it was just really scary. And I have a tendency to put myself in other people's shoes, so I couldn't imagine what it would be like to be there and just to not feel safe and to feel scared. So I um I left the house that morning and I went to my Acting 2 class. And at the start of that class, we were already trying to do a scene. And I'm trying to remember what it was called. It was called Misadventure or something like that. I'm sure I'll remember long after I post this, but the characters are this girl named Ainsley and her little brother, whose name I oddly can't remember all of a sudden. But the little brother is a teenager, and he was doing something stupid, and he got picked up by the police, and I think he even was drinking or something, and Ainsley had to pick him up, and their parents were absent. And there's a moment in the scene where Ainsley cries. And so we all had to talk about how to get to that emotional point to be able to make ourselves cry. And it just wasn't easy. It's not easy, especially if it's something like at a high emotion. Yeah, you do have to throw yourself into the scene to really get there, and I can say it's not easy at all. But that, and that's why we also had to watch the video of the young man playing Elliot. We had to watch his audition tape. And I realized for kids, it's really easy to put yourself in a situation because children have a huge imagination. And so I feel like acting is just kind of like playtime for them. So if I was a child actor, that's how it would be for me. I wouldn't just like, this is my job. I would have fun with my job. I would play pretend. I would throw myself into the moment. So I think but that's just like my personal thoughts on that. Well, I went to class that morning when I heard about the shooting, and our teacher is, he's a really nice man, and he told us, crazy stuff happens all the time. We deal with the news, like the things that we see on the news. We deal with violence. We deal with all kinds of crazy things, and This was back in 2017. I may have mentioned that before. And he said, I want this classroom to be a place where you can all just, everything that you're stressed out about, whether it's school, homework, the news, work, anything like that. He's like, just leave it at the door and just come into class and just let it, just, how am I trying to say this? Leave it at the door and just be in class and take some time to just forget about everything going on outside and just worry about this class. And it was really nice, and it was a fun class. It was only stressful when you had to get up and perform in front of people. But I get stage fright, even though I've always liked acting, and I would like to go into acting somehow, someday. Right now, I'm just content to make videos and do this, because this is also fun. I also enjoy this. And so I, of course, had to get up and perform this scene as Ainsley. And she has a line, if I can remember it correctly, she says something along the lines of, there are truly sick people in this world that want to destroy the happiness of others. And she's saying that to her brother because her brother put himself in a dangerous situation, and she starts saying, like, well, what if you had gotten kidnapped? What if someone killed you? What if this happened? What if it wasn't the police that picked you up? Like, something bad could have happened. And that's when she says, like, there's truly sick and terrible people out there who want to destroy other people's happiness. And so when I delivered that line, I thought of the shooting, and it kind of just hit me in that moment. And I actually was able to get myself to start crying. But there's a specific moment where in the script it says, like, Ainsley starts crying. That moment, I didn't actually cry. I was crying. I was able to get some tears out before that moment, and it's when I delivered that other line. But she talks about, like, what if I had lost you? If I had lost you, I wouldn't be able to live with myself. Like, she talks about that, and then she's supposed to turn away from him, and she's supposed to cry, or something like that. I guess it depends on what the director decides, but in that moment, I turned away from him, and I wanted to see if I could get myself to have tears, and I didn't have tears, but I kind of just stood there. Like, I don't know, I don't know if it showed on my face, but what I was thinking was, like, this realization that I was close to being able to make myself cry. But at the end of the day, I realized it wasn't about the fact that whether or not I was able to make myself cry. It was more about, in the words of another student, because afterwards we talked, after people had gotten up and performed the scene, our teacher asked, like, okay, who would you cast in this? Like, if you were a director and you had to cast this, who would you cast? And someone said, I would cast Trisha, because she came the closest emotionally to where Ainsley needs to be. And I was very pleased with that. So as far as making yourself cry in acting, as far as that goes, I think it is putting yourself in the moment. Going back to the young man who tried out for Elliot, I was also thinking about if I were in his shoes auditioning and someone's telling me, like, I even thought, like, I would have completely, this is what I think I would have done, but I think I would have completely replaced E.T. with an imaginary friend of mine. Oh, this is kind of silly, I know, but I had an imaginary friend. I had a lot of imaginary friends growing up, sadly. But one of my favorites was Lion. I know that sounds silly, but Lion, like, I would have replaced E.T. with Lion. and just imagine someone, like if lying was real and someone came and said, hey, you have a walking, talking lion as a friend, I'm here to take him away. Like that's how I would envision it, and maybe that's how I would get there at that age. To specify, at that age, that's how I would do it. But as an adult, I could think of other things. Like I'd think of something that makes me sad, something that makes me cry. Like my cat Topaz, he's sleeping right now, but he's 15 and he's old. And he sounds old sometimes. But it just, like, if I had to audition for a similar role, then I would place Topaz there. If someone wanted to hurt Topaz or take him away, I think I'd be able to get there emotionally better. If that sentence made sense at all. Sorry. I promise I can speak good. But if someone were to say, like, I'm gonna take your cat away, like, I'd be able to get there emotionally a lot more effectively, I think, than if I were to try any other way. But that's just my thoughts. Anyways, but that's the story. Sorry it was all over the place, but I love telling stories and I would like to do it more often on this channel. So leave a like and comment if you want me to do more story times. I did say I wanted to tell a story about an earthquake that happened a few months ago here in Utah, and there's like a lot of funny perspectives. Like there's my mom's perspective, my dad's perspective, my perspective, and my sister and her kids' perspective as well. Yeah. Anyways, so yeah, like or comment to let me know if that's what you'd like to hear more of. Another thing, the reason I lived in California is because I served my mission there, and I love telling stories about my mission, but I do get self-conscious. I think it's just a return missionary thing. Like you get self-conscious about like all the stories you tell about your mission, because it was such a big deal. It's a big part of your life, and like you want to share it with people, but you get like self-conscious, like, am I talking too much about my mission? This is awkward. So again, I'm definitely going to be telling the earthquake story in the future, because I would love to tell that story. But I do want to tell mission stories, so please let me know if you would like to hear those stories as well. And until the next video, see ya!